Well, hi, there you are. Welcome back to the garden. It is Sunday, February 6th. I want to thank everybody that's been sending in questions lately. Gives me something to talk about while all we're doing is covering and uncovering. Like I've said in previous videos, the thing with the cold frames, you don't want them to cook when it gets warmed up, because it gets quite a bit warmer inside than the outside air. But when it gets cold at night, you still want them covered up. So there's a little bit of work. A question I get all the time is, what zone are you in? Or, what works best in what zone? What plants grow best in what zone? I don't really think the zone has a lot to do with it. Knowing the last frost date has a little bit to do with it. You could have a greenhouse in the middle of Alaska and grow tomatoes all year long. Take a look at the back of this seed pack. Yeah, we got colored stripes, and it kind of tells you what zone is what across the United States. It has more to do with the amount of sunlight you're going to get and the actual soil temperature you're going to have. Yes, sir.
How we doing, Waylon?
I'm doing real good, Wes. You had some more information on what the palm tree actually does. I mean, it's a perennial, but what it does for cold weather.
Well, you have Sable minor. It's basically its growth point is underground. That's why it's protected, or even to the point where you could cut off all the leaves of it, but as long as that center growth point, that new bud that comes right out of the middle, as long as that's not disturbed, it'll always regenerate. Those are going to be key points as well.
All right, man, thanks. I know you're busy. I'll talk to you later.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep. Now, since I've gone to the deep mulch method, I've really changed the way I think about things. Now, 50 years ago, when I was coming up on end of a hoe learning how to garden, one of the things they talked about is we can't plant yet. The ground temperature isn't whatever. One of the things I learned about this deep mulch 4 years ago was it keeps the ground temperature cooler in the summer. So it just makes sense that it would keep it warmer in the winter. Let's take a look at right here. This is a great example. Right here under this snow, this soil remains unfrozen. You can dig in it, keep your ground covered, which will keep it thawed out. You give a little protection for the cold air. It doesn't really matter what zone you're in, you can grow. I went ahead and looked up and saw what my zone was. If I'd worried about the zones, would I be planting in the middle of winter? I mean, where I live, we just had a little over 6 inches of snow, and the temperatures got down to 0. What kind of plants grow best in my zone? That's a huge question that I get asked. I don't think it matters at all. You need to grow what you like to eat. You do want to do a little pre-planting. Your garden is in an area where you only have about 90 days of good sun and good temperatures. You're obviously not going to be successful growing something that's going to take 120 days to maturity. But you can moderate that. You can start it earlier in the house or in a greenhouse, or under one of the tubs like I'm doing out here. What's a beautiful plant like you doing in a place like this? The whole thing about what's your zone reminds me of the 60s disco era, when people used to meet by saying, hey, what's your sign? You do need to know what your growing season is if you're going to plant straight in the garden. I've always gone by when's the last frost date and when's the first frost date. And that gives you sort of a range of what your actual growing time is. I wouldn't let myself get hung up on what zone and what grows best in this zone and what grows best in 2, what grows best in 9. You might miss out on some really good plants. And if zones really mattered, our astronauts are going to be in a world of hurt, because I don't believe there's any zones on the space station. If zones really mattered, I don't think I'd be growing palm trees here in Zone 7. I did mulch around them, and they're doing just fine, even uncovered. I think more important is the temperature of the soil and the amount of sunlight you get. If zones really mattered, would I be planting in the middle of winter? We only put those in just a few days ago. The plastic totes make a great mini greenhouse. It keeps the soil warm enough to germinate seeds even in the middle of winter. Remember, if you're gonna do this, even with the snow, you want to water. You want these seeds to have the best chance they can have. I do appreciate everybody that's subscribed and all the questions you're sending in. I do thank you for stopping by the garden. I hope I answered a couple of those. Can you believe I've got seeds sprouting in the middle of a real garden, in the middle of winter, standing in the middle of snow? All the credit goes to God and the deep mulch. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.